Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke. As I mentioned in last week's podcast, I'm catching up after coming back from the URSA convention in Los Angeles, back at my offices in Lake Forest, California, and getting ready to head out to the European Health and Fitness Forum and FIBO next week after a stopover in UK to see some colleagues there. It's great to be out and about. April is upon us, and I hope you had a wonderful Easter holiday. Today, we have a wonderful member of the FITSE community, Tessa Thomas. Her background in D1 athletics is very interesting. We talk about that. We talk about her experiences in startups as an entrepreneur, and we get into her pipeline solutions, built-in automation and analytics for boutique fitness concepts. A great, interesting story. We get into low-code and no-code. We talk about trends and her pearls of wisdom. Tessa was able to join us at the URSA event where we had a FITSE get-together with our members. It was very well attended, and she is a very insightful lady, so I think you're going to really enjoy this interview. So without further ado, let's welcome Tessa Thomas. Well, listeners, as I said in the introduction, we have the pleasure of having Tessa Thomas on. Tessa, are you up in the Toronto area today?
I am.
Well, it's good to see you again.
Thank you. Yeah, I was about to say it's sunny here today, which is nice. We'll take it.
That is nice. It was wonderful to see you at URSA, now the Health and Fitness Association, as it was announced there. And I really appreciate you not only being a FITSE Technology Council member, but also being at the event we hosted. It was wonderful to see you and the other members of the FITSE community. Thanks for being there.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. And it was great to meet members of the community as well.
Yeah. So as I was saying in the introduction, Tessa, you have a very interesting background. I'd like to start off and talk about your kind of background in D1 sports, kind of your journey into fitness and health. What were you doing in D1 athletics?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up here in Toronto, but was recruited to go play D1 softball at Winthrop University in South Carolina. So played 4 years down there. What can you say about being a D1 athlete other than it's such a unique experience, kind of competing at the highest level while going to school, and just teammates and coaches become family, and it's really something special. So I was happy to do that. And being an athlete and competing at that level, it's not like you can ever really turn that off. It kind of just stays with you. So knowing that I wasn't necessarily going to do more in softball when I was studying my master's, which is in art conservation up here in Canada. After 4 years in South Carolina, I got my personal training certification and knew that fitness was always going to be part of my life, whether it be through personal training or group fitness, part-time or full-time. It was just something that I knew I'd be drawn to, and helping people achieve their goals. Being from a team sport, it's really rare for me to work out or do anything alone. So that's what drew me to group fitness, and it's been a part of my life ever since.
Yeah, that's wonderful. One of our portfolio companies, I think we talked about this, is Vertimax, which is widely used in D1 schools, and then also with youth athletics. It's amazing the number of young people who are in athletics today and how profound that whole kind of marketplace is. It's really changed a lot and got much more participation in the last 20 years than it used to have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, youth sports, it is quite amazing. Just the technology that's involved now, the data, the analytics, like all sorts of things that are kind of trickling down from that pro kind of level all the way into, college sports and then into the youth side of things. So participation is up, which is great. And, I was a 5-sport athlete in high school, so I didn't really specialize until I got to college, to be honest. So it's great to see that, kids are competing a lot. And I'm always an advocate of multiple sports or activities and modalities. I think it builds a more well-rounded athlete. So
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, not only did you do D1 athletics, but you've also been involved in a couple of startups in addition to Pipeline Solutions, which is your more recent venture. Tell me about, in the community and the listeners, tell me about some of your observations in the startup world over the last several years and what you're seeing there.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, being an entrepreneur and kind of that startup culture and itch has really taken off in the last 10 to 15 years. It's more accessible for more people than it's ever been. So, I was not excluded from that. Pipeline is not the first business or startup that I've worked in or kind of got off the ground. So, FitNotes was health and fitness book summaries for fitness professionals, and then Recruit HQ was kind of like Glassdoor, but for college athletic recruiting. So current and former student athletes could rate and review their experiences competing in their programs at their schools in an effort to help recruits and their families understand what that experience was like. So, I think really you're seeing more and more people trying to solve problems, which is a great thing. And the ability to do so through startups has been around for some time, but I think kind of the barriers of entry are getting a little bit lower, which is enabling, more people to kind of tackle those problems and see things in their world that maybe there aren't solutions to yet. So I think that's probably the most kind of exciting thing that I've seen in the space, or just the number of, even non-technical. I wouldn't consider myself technical, though we can talk about that a bit later, how things have evolved and what that looks like now compared to even, 5 years ago. But just, more and more people getting into the space, more and more people getting interested in business and what it takes to, operate and run a startup, a SaaS business, whether it's B2B or B2C, and kind of everything that goes into that. I think there's as high an interest in that arena as there probably has ever been.
Yeah, when I became entrepreneurish back in the early 90s and went out on my own, back then the word entrepreneur had no positive connotation whatsoever. It meant that you were a bum who couldn't get a job, For a lot of people, that was the kind of default rate. And now it's not that way. I mean, the resources that you have, the networks that you have, of course, the internet,
totally,
creating communities where you can find expertise, advice, you can get a lot of help. It's really become an interesting choice for young people or people of any age, really, to kind of reimagine what they could do outside of an ordinary job or other things. Nothing wrong with a job, but it's just another option for people to make a bigger impact. I think it's a wonderful thing personally, but it's changed so much in the last 35 years.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
It's just weird. And so, given your entrepreneurial bent, given your fitness background, you were teaching or you were a coach at F45, right? And you came up with an idea because you were seeing people having problems to solve. Tell us the story of what led you to start Pipeline Solutions.
Yeah, 100%. So Pipeline Solutions was born out of my interest in startups and software development, and kind of just building projects that could help people solve problems. And being a coach in a studio that was growing and doing very well, but had growing pains, I effectively just reached out to our studio owner and asked him, what's really painful, what could we do to maybe help alleviate some of the load, because boutique fitness it's a unique space. You typically have hundreds of members, but a small team that's really facilitating all of those operations. So it's actually really easy to get overwhelmed and bogged down and just continuously be working in your business instead of on your business, right? Because of the demands of just the type of business that it is. So John Ledbrook and I, my co-founder here at Pipeline and multi-studio F45 owner, just kind of got together and started brainstorming ideas around some of the, operational automations and analytics that would help him be able to operate, him and his wife Liz, be able to operate the studios at a more efficient kind of pace. And that's really where Pipeline was born out of.
And what does the product do? Can you describe for the audience what kind of thing that it enables these operators to benefit from using the tool?
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of have two sides of the platform. We have our automations, which literally just run kind of daily. So we have a late cancel, no show fee automation. So that just happens in the background. So, instead of having to go through your 7 or 8 classes for the day, figure out who didn't show up or who late canceled, and then process those transactions, our system just does that for you. So again, it's the type of thing that seems small, but at 8 or 9 o'clock at night after a full day, that's not the type of work you want to be doing. 100%. Nobody wants to be doing that. So, our system does that for studio teams, which is great. The booking management automation removes clients from double bookings and we call them waitlist squatters, but kind of those people that just take up a lot of spots in your classes and they don't really have any intention to train more than once. They just haven't decided what classes they're going to do. So again, that really helps with utilization because you can get false positives on class capacity or class utilization and registration when people are double booking and kind of multiple spots are being held. So again, that just happens in the background, cleans up those things. We have a bulk class scheduler, so that allows you to bulk classes and schedule them in just a couple clicks. So if you have, classes that you always run on Mondays or Tuesdays for the next 4 weeks, it's really easy to just build out those schedules and just have them get pushed to Mindbody. So Mindbody is our integration partner that we work with. And then on the analytics side, it's so many things. So we look at things from a role perspective. So, what would a studio, actually, we'll go one above that. Perhaps there's a multi-owner group or a level above just a single studio owner that needs oversight over all of their locations. So we do blended data. We do kind of deeper analytics around member growth, lead funnel, conversion rates, revenue, performance, and things like that at that higher level. And then with each role, there's kind of specific analytics and views that are pertinent to that role. So we get all the way into, which of your clients haven't been to class in 4 days or 7 days or 10 days, which clients are approaching their milestones, who's going to hit 50 classes this week, who's going to hit 250 classes this week. So we know who we're celebrating. And it kind of just brings everything into one spot so that studio teams aren't having to pull multiple reports to find all of this information. It's kind of just right there at your fingertips.
That seems very practical as a solution.
Yeah, we go with practicality and tactical kind of thinking to make sure that it's useful. There's definitely some higher level things that are more strategic on the analytics side, but there's a lot of practical and more tactical kind of views in there as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, it is true in many different CRMs or other member management systems, there's just a ream of potential reports, and that doesn't make it easy to utilize the information, right? And more automation and combined with the right way to look at data that's really the difference between operating your business, like you're saying, working on the business versus in the business. And I've seen it in companies all the time. I mean, it's pretty prevalent where there's a lot of information and no one really knows how to make it easy to use.
Yeah, 1,000%. Where our mission is to create the most optimal environment for boutique fitness studio operations. And that means that each data point should be actionable is kind of our high benchmark for what we're trying to achieve and what we put into the dashboards and into the views so that, the goal is you could look at a single data point or list or, kind of view and be able to take action on that or understand what that best next step would be. So that's kind of our North Star with things on the analytics side. And then, of course, on the automations, it's the idea that, let's automate as much as we can to the point where your team is really doing all those things that they got into fitness for, right? Which is pouring into people on the floor, making sure that people are achieving their goals, working with the programming and doing all those things instead of getting bogged down in spreadsheets and analytics that could lead them all over the place, or tons of reports that they have to pull. So yeah, we come from it from that side.
That's smart. And in light of this solution, which you've created, the Pipeline Solutions, we were talking a little bit before the podcast about, you mentioned low code or no code components to kind of create these solutions. And, another example of automation and making things easier to actually execute, that is the world. A lot of people may realize this, and a lot of people may not, is that the whole realm of software itself is going through a lot of change, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. So again, like I got into everything that I've built was low code or no code, including Pipeline in its first version and iteration. The product you see now is not the same one that I built. We've evolved it since then, thanks to our lead developer and CTO, Mike Williams, who's been awesome to have on the team, and has taken that over and is doing a phenomenal job of evolving the product. But that first version was a low code, no code version. The other startups I mentioned previously were built the same way, and so that's a space that I actually got into almost 10 years ago now, and it's totally different than it was. I can't even. It's almost hard to fathom, because everything I've built, I would build differently today, right? So it's moved that quickly, but the beauty of it for sure is that it gives people a way in to building, and also understanding, hopefully trying to get a sense of understanding really what goes into building a software product. I think there's a lot of, as you mentioned, advancements, AI agents that are going to be able to deploy code, and we're already there, in all honesty. It's already there, but you still need a pretty deep and solid understanding of what all that is and what goes into it, and what connects to what, and how things need to function together to create a cohesive product. So I think there's still a lot where that expertise is certainly needed. There's for sure though advantages to troubleshooting bugs and things like that are already being used, troubleshooting queries, and all of that is super helpful. I don't think anybody would object to that, but I would say that for me, even being a non-technical kind of founder, is that having that background in low code and no code has enabled me to understand the product more deeply than I think I would have had I just, had an idea and outsourced all the development. So even just getting in there in that way, I think is really beneficial to people if they can. And over time, I think for sure we're going to see a lot of things go the way of low code and no code, and maybe not having such heavy dev resources deployed at the early stages. But I think those later stages, you're still going to really need that expertise and insight, and those people who have all that background to create a cohesive product.
Yeah, you're going to need them, but I think what it's going to do, for those listeners who may understand or may not, even if you're coding in Python or real code products that are, that's the heavy lifting, now with Copilot and other things, our son, Sean, who's a very avid coder, he's just blown away by having the Copilot with him. It asks you, what are you trying to do here? And you tell it, it's the code, and it does it. And it'll tell you, look, it's good that I know, but what it helps with is it helps iterate your approach faster and better. And it's
100%.
And all that's going to mean, in my mind, I'm curious to your opinion on this, Tessa, is to the extent we talked about when I was an entrepreneur and launched my business 35 years ago, and to the extent you did it more recently, in the next 5 years, there are going to be even more people seeing problems they can solve with accessibility to tools that can help them actually launch products. That's the thing that excites me.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's going to be even more important to differentiate your solutions, right? As
That's
that
right.
happens, and to
Right.
create, kind of unique offerings and unique positioning and ways to do things, because the ability to do things is only getting easier and easier, as you said, and just tools that enable developers right now. It's fantastic, right? Because it just means they can do what they like to do more,
Yep.
quicker, and in a way that probably feels more supported, in all honesty. Like if
Yep.
you've been working on something as a solo dev and now you have kind of this AI co-pilot by your side to kind of do some paired programming with you, it's fantastic.
It is. And another realm I'm curious that I see or think about is legacy products, because
Mhm.
when you built something based on what was going on 15 or 20 years ago, and now you try to fix that, there are a lot of challenges based on the way it was constructed, where you have fundamental advantages in developing now compared to then,
For sure.
because those solutions, they can't undo to redo them. They have to either trash them and
Yeah.
start fresh, or they're stuck in that place where they're having to constantly manage that mess that
Hmm.
doesn't really work today. So
Yep.
you're going to have a lot of legacy challenges, which are going to mean incredible opportunities for some people.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Well, so you're a D1 athlete. You solve problems with your wonderful tool, Pipeline Solutions. Um, Tell me and the audience a little bit about, putting you on the spot here, any
It's all right.
pearls of wisdom that you've garnered over the years from doing these things and doing your work with Pipeline Solutions now in the fitness space, in technology, at startups. What are some kind of life lessons that you're taking away from your journey thus far?
Yeah, I think for me, the I'd say an overarching theme that I've seen through all the work that I've done is that it's really still about people. I think we can get kind of away from, especially in B2B SaaS or markets like that, who we're selling to. Um, but it's really just all about, helping people do their work or achieve their goals if you're talking about in the fitness space itself. So that's definitely been something that when I feel like, the question comes up of what do we do next, or how do we approach this problem, or a business kind of case for certain things, it tends to always help if I can reframe that to how do we help this person. How do we help the studio owner? How do we help the studio manager? How do we help this member coming into the studio? How do we help this recruit who wants to go to a D1 program? How do we do that? And I think when you reframe things into just looking at that person that's in that spot, um, it tends to make things a bit clearer, or at least a little bit more clear in that moment. So that kind of be, I think, the thing that I'd share and try and remind people to keep considering is, keeping it personal and keeping that person at the center of everything that you're doing. And I think it will help um, produce the solutions that you're trying to do and that they're looking for in the end.
Think that's a lot of wisdom. Go digital to go human, right? The
You got it.
more we digitize things, the more humanity and people are going to matter if you think about it in the right way. I couldn't agree with you more, Tessa.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Brilliant. Tessa, how can people find you? I know you're on LinkedIn. Any other connections? We'll put links in the show notes as well, so
Perfect.
below, but share how people could most easily connect with you.
Yeah, 100%. So LinkedIn is a great spot. So Tessa Thomas on LinkedIn. Also, our site is pipeline-solutions.co. So I'm sure we'll share that in the notes. And then we also
Yeah.
have a few resources. So for anyone listening, on the studio ops side, we have our churn prevention playbook that I'm happy to offer studio teams, as well as our studio health scorecard. So if anyone reaches out on LinkedIn and sends me a DM, happy to send those over as just resources to dig into.
Yeah, so thanks again for being part of the Fitzy community, and a great story. We wish you continued success, and I'm in your corner along with a lot of other people. Keep doing great things. Thanks for making time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Bryan.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.